We heard from the prosecution. You just heard from the defense. Let's bring in Shauna Lloyd once again, our civil rights attorney, been following along with us here. Shauna, we talked about what stood out to you with regard to the prosecution. What stood out to you here with regard to the defense?
The defense did an interesting thing by bringing in a lot of the evidence and showing, identifying, stilling down the pictures. What they're doing essentially is creating these sort of memory markers, and they're kind of painting their story around it. So when you see it in context later, it's still going to be against this foil that they originally presented in. And I think that's why you heard the state having so much argument against the way they're doing it. It is unusual, but it is definitely something that can be done. So it's a very smart way of kind of setting that original impression that they're going to now measure everything else against.
And that was that Kyle was under attack, that he was there to protect his community. He was there to try to prevent the looters and from attacking local businesses. He was trying to calm things there on the street. Do you think the defense did a good job with the pictures, with the video, with the various examples? One thing that stood out to me was when he was talking about one of the victims who passed that had used his skateboard and flung his skateboard at Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle's attorney there pointing out, you know, that could have just taken his head off. It's, you know, when you think of a skateboard versus a semi-automatic weapon, you know, it's kind of hard to lay out that type of argument and feel compassion. Or was that a good move?
You know, Kira, I think it's something that will provide context to some, and I think to some it won't mean much. I mean, a skateboard, when when you feel them, they are very heavyweight. They are, you know, substantial. When you talk about someone swinging it, it could be used as a weapon. But when you face that against a weapon of that caliber, it kind of pales in comparison. However, danger and mortal danger is still that. He's still looking to just show that there was this level of mortal danger that Kyle felt he was in that caused him to shoot. That's why we saw him really illustrate the persons that he didn't, you know, these other persons were speaking to him. He did not shoot anyone else. It was very concentrated. It's why you saw him focus on those stills, right? That position of being on his back in a prone position where they had people moving in on him. That's what was the purpose of those, was to create this idea and to illustrate that he was in a position of vulnerability and that people were on the attack and that he had to do something to protect his life.
So we weren't quite sure if we were going to hear Kyle Rittenhouse testify, but it sounds like he is going to. Is that how you understood what his attorney was saying?
It definitely sounds like he's indicating that he is going to testify. Self-defense often hinges on what that person was feeling at that time. And so jurors want to know. They want to hear it from that particular person. Now, granted, that does open the door to cross-examination, which a lot of defense attorneys will tend to hesitate and say, no, you know, we might not want to go down that route. But here it seems as though they're priming the jurors to hear some sort of testimony from him.
Shauna, stay with us. Alex Perez is there in Kenosha, Wisconsin, covering this trial. He has actually been covering the story from the very beginning. Alex, we finally got you back on the phone. We talked to you a little bit before everything started. You've had a chance to listen to everything overall, both sides, opening statements, even a number of moments with the judge where he was trying to sort of figure things out and talk things through. Thought it was going to be a little more streamlined, but there was a lot of distractions. Your overall impressions here of what you've heard so far since you've been on the story from the very start, and what you are paying attention to and what you think we all should pay attention to now as we move forward, as we cover this entire trial.
Yeah, Kara, I think we saw some of what we talked about earlier involving the judge. During these opening statements, when the jury was away, you heard the judge sort of asking a lot of questions in a meandering way. At some points, it seemed maybe like he was trying to figure out what exactly both parties were talking about. And I think when the jury is not in the courtroom, we might expect to see a little more of that. But what we saw here happen during these opening statements is what we've seen Kyle Rittenhouse and his defense attorneys really argue the last year or so since this all unfolded. The defense here really saying that Kyle was coming here to Kenosha to protect businesses, to protect people here, and that painting this picture that he, in some way, he wants the jury to believe was the victim, the person who was attacked here, and that he fired his weapon because he was trying to defend himself from those trying to attack him. Now, as we heard the state say during their opening statements there, during these protests, no one was killed until Rittenhouse decided to show up and came here to supposedly, allegedly protect the businesses here. We saw also today, Kira, the state and defense really going back and forth about every little detail outside of the view of the jury, discussing this with the judge. And that's because there's so many social media videos about this shooting, about the incident as it unfolded, that every frame can really make a difference to a particular juror. And so we saw the state did not use any audio or video during their opening statements. And as Shauna mentioned, the defense did. And they are trying to paint that sort of picture early on to later have a reference for the jury to come back to. And we saw the defense sort of take apart some of the key moments, not every image, but some of the key moments that happened. And, of course, the defense selecting images that do appear to show Kyle Rittenhouse sort of in a position where he's trying to defend himself or running away or has his hands up when he's seeing the police department, the police officers that were there on the scene. So the defense wasting no time to sort of get in there and change the public image that many have right now of Kyle Rittenhouse sort of being this vigilante who showed up here and went on a shooting spree. I think those arguments between the state and the defense are going to continue as we see this trial unfold and move forward. Every little image, depending on how it's described, can impact a juror in a different way, and we're going to see that continue throughout this trial here, Kira.
And before we wrap up our conversation, Alex, I'd like to know, you've gotten to know this community. You have talked with people on both sides. And now we just heard Kyle Rittenhouse's attorney say that more than likely it looks like he will testify. What do you make of that? How do you think the community is going to respond to that?
Well, Kara, this is a smaller, tight-knit community, but also a conservative community. Many people here were very upset to see those violent protests happen when they did. And Kyle Rittenhouse was not the only one to answer that call to take up arms and come protect businesses here. He is the only one who was seen shooting and killing two people, but he wasn't the only one who showed up to help protect businesses here. And so I think people will really be paying close attention to what he says if he, in fact, takes the stand to testify. But I think it's easy to think that a lot of people in the community would be angry at Kyle Rittenhouse, would think that what he did was wrong, but there really is a divide, and he has, in this community and in communities across the country, as you've seen the people who have come out to support him, he has people who are standing by what he did, people who are angry about the protests, violent protests that not only happened here, but happened in other cities across the country. And there are some people who believe that what Kyle Rittenhouse did, take up arms and sort of take this vigilante style of taking justice into your own hands, there's a lot of people who believe that was the right thing to do. And so that debate is going to play out, Kira, and you can imagine that both sides are going to make their voices clear and heard if we see Kyle Rittenhouse take the stand. It appears that way, as you have been saying through those defense opening statements, that that's what we'll see, but we won't know until he's on that stand.
And we will be following it all. Alex Perez there in Kenosha for us. Thank you so much. Shauna Lloyd helping us weave through all the legalities of this case. Appreciate you both. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.